Welcome back to the channel, everyone. You can count me in and add me to your list of people who are shocked. When I got on social media today and I saw that Mike Vrabel was fired from the Tennessee Titans, there's a lot that we have to dive into in today's video. There's a lot that I want to touch on and talk about. And I think this was a timeline and a time period for Mike Vrabel being the head coach that was highlighted by an aggressive, physical, hard-nosed, smash-mouth football team. I want to go through the timeline a little bit so we can get to where we are now and we can understand a little bit of how we got here before we dive into what's next, because I think by the end of this video, there's a couple of dots that start to connect and you're going to say, hold up. Is this true? Is this something that may actually be in the works that we're possibly looking at with Carthon, with the owner of the Tennessee Titans, and potentially a new head coach in Tennessee? So I want to start dating back to 2018. Mike Vrabel came in. This is a guy that comes off of that Bill Belichick coaching tree. Mike Vrabel being a former player in the NFL, he was a defensive player. He's a defensive-minded head coach, so he worked with that side of the ball. This is before they got into Ryan Tannehill. This was a Marcus Mariota-led year, and then they got into 2019. Lost in the conference championship. Ryan Tannehill on this football team. Arthur Smith is the offensive coordinator. Derrick Henry running like he's a wild man in the backfield. And then I think when I look at this team in some of those peak years, I'm really looking at 2019, 2020, and 2021. We're going to talk about those years. But these were years that were highlighted by A.J. Brown as the receiver, alpha guy, young guy coming in before he got into that second contract. And we knew what he was, a physical, everything he is now. That was the type of receiver that they had as their alpha number one guy. Had Ryan Tannehill throwing him the ball. And defensively, this was a group led by Jeffrey Simmons, Harold Landry, some of those guys we start to think about when we think about what we look at with the Tennessee Titans defense. Mike Vrabel being a defensive-minded head coach. If you got out of a game with the Tennessee Titans and you played with Mike Vrabel as the head coach for those guys, you knew that you just played the Tennessee Titans. You were leaving with bruises. You were leaving with scars. You were leaving with marks and leaving physically drained after playing a physical team like that. So I think to have that 9-7 year where they got to the conference championship, go to 2020, 11-5, but they only made it to the wild card, lost in the wild card. Then you look at 2021, lost in the divisional round. And also when you look at these 2 years, they had their most playoff success when they had a 9-7 record. Have an 11-5 record in 2020. Have a 12-5 record in 2021 where we went to 17 games. But less playoff success. And then I think I'm looking at these past 2 years. You move off of a guy like A.J. Brown. You trade him within the draft. Now you draft Malik Willis and you draft Will Levis in back-to-back years. And we've seen it a little bit. They've been going to Ryan Tannehill, then they go to Malik Willis. They go to Malik Willis, then they go to Will Levis. But I think now you're kind of set with what you want to do as you head into the future. Will Levis, coming out of Kentucky, he's shown us enough that I think you want to see what he does next season. I think he could be a very good quarterback in this league. But when you bring in Carthon, now we start to connect the dots a little bit. I want to talk about some of the things that we think about with Carthon, some of the places that he's came from, should I say. Carthon was a handful of years the director of player personnel for the San Francisco 49ers. Who else was a guy that worked with the offense for the San Francisco 49ers? That's none other than the offensive coordinator right now for the Houston Texans, Bobby Slowick. Because when I first saw this move, I was extremely surprised. What's going on? I love Mike Vrabel. He's a leader of men. He's a former player. He can relate to the players. He's a guy that we can understand our defense is going to be good behind him if we have the proper personnel. We're going to have to handle the offense. Tim Kelly. It was Arthur Smith. They have that side of the ball. But I felt like if they got some personnel going, if they got fully healthy, got back into a rhythm, I thought that they had a good future moving forward with this team. I didn't really count them out if they could handle the offseason properly, handle the draft properly. But when I'm looking at Carthon, I understand now that there was a rift between he and Mike Vrabel. Even Amy, the owner of this team, she's came out and said some things about these guys that we're looking at a team where we want to go in the direction of Carthon. Mike Vrabel wants to go this direction. And when you bring in that first-year GM, a guy who's been from success, you come from the San Francisco 49ers, we've seen some of the players they've drafted, some of the players they picked up, and he's been a guy who's behind some of those decisions, giving an ear in that room, seeing how it's done with the best of the best. So for the Tennessee Titans, that was what they want to lean with. The owner of the Tennessee Titans stated that she wanted a fresh perspective on some things for the Tennessee Titans moving forward. And then you think about all of the guys who could be potential head coaches coming up. We got a very good list. Todd Monken, Mike McDonald, Ben Johnson, Bobby Slowick. A lot of the names you start to ramble off and you think about it. Now for Will Levis, this would be his fourth consecutive new offensive coordinator in consecutive seasons. I think that's something you have to look at when you talk about a young guy. How will that work with him? But probably they're thinking, okay, if we can bring in one of these offensive minds like a Bobby Slowick who worked with San Francisco with Rand Carthon, maybe we could give him that level of consistency. Maybe we can now go in a direction where we're getting the proper personnel. We're building a winning football team and we're retooling it, rebuilding it, but not really going all the way from the ground up. So those are a couple of things that I look at. And I want to know, Tennessee Titans fans, football fans, what are you thinking as we head along through this video? What do you see for the Tennessee Titans as they look into the offseason, as they look into the future? Because while I love Vrabel, I think a team that wants a new head coach, they should be looking at Mike Vrabel along with some of those guys that I aforementioned. You want a defensive guy, you want a guy who is a leader of men, who the players can relate to, go get you Mike Vrabel. I'm thinking about some of those teams, Los Angeles Chargers. We're looking at Jim Harbaugh. I'm not 100% sure that he wants to come to the NFL out of Michigan. They just won a national championship, and I'm seeing some things leading towards that way. So with all of those things that I start to think about, I'm feeling like maybe Bobby Slowick is the guy for this job. I mean, we're looking at what he's doing with CJ Stroud, D'Amico Ryans. And the question is with Bobby Slowick, does he want to be a head coach one day? That's really what it comes down to. You got CJ Stroud, you got D'Amico Ryans, you have a young defense and a young offense that you're coaching. You're kind of in the perfect situation if you're Bobby Slowick. So do you want to get some more years under your belt? And I feel like that may be the only thing that could possibly deter Tennessee and lead them in a different direction. Now, Rand Carthon, he's in charge in directing this coaching carousel, directing who the Tennessee Titans pick up as their next head coach. So we're going to have to see what he has to do, what he wants to do. But there's a couple of ties that lead us to that guy in Houston. I want to know what you guys think. Once again, these are all of the things that I look at. Like I said, I was shocked. It really surprised me getting on social media, seeing Mike Vrabel fired. I mean, I'll never call for a head coach's job, but I'll say I kind of foresaw what happened with Arthur Smith. I kind of foresaw what happened with Ron Rivera. And for this move to happen, this wasn't along the line of thinking that I had as we head into the offseason. But as always, thank you guys for watching. I think this was a very good video, a very good discussion. I'm keeping my eye on Bobby Slowick as the Houston Texans make this playoff push. Very good offensive coordinator, has a very good quarterback, Rand Carthon. The Tennessee Titans decided to go with you over Mike Vrabel. They wanted your decisions more than what he wanted to do. He wanted a little more leadership. He wanted a little more of a voice within this decision-making process. But Rand Carthon is the guy. We're going to have to see how this goes. I want to especially know what Tennessee Titans fans think. From what I've seen thus far, and I haven't posted this video yet, but the feeling I'm getting is that Tennessee Titans fans are trusting the process. They know Mike Vrabel is a good head coach, and they feel that if he was fired, there must be a really good line of thinking and really something that led to the decision. That's going to do it for today, man. Thank you guys for watching as always once again. And now, yeah.